at the run, cheering on his wife and cheering on a lot of other people who are running in the race that he knows.
It's amazing. The runs turn into almost a parade of sorts for the city, and the city loves to have parades. All cities do, and I got to say, and I rarely say this. I am pretty much a lifelong resident of the city, and me and the city have a love-hate relationship. Mm-hmm. That's what you do when you live here. But I got to say that with the past 2 parades we had, I was proud, Philadelphia. You acted very mature. Yeah. No one was really hurt. You were surprisingly well. No, I've talked to people I know in law enforcement and everything, and it was not only good, it was better than expected. Mm-hmm. And we celebrated without hurting anyone or destroying anything. And because so often now celebration comes with destruction. And
I think with the Super Bowl, everyone got out their energy that week. But even then, I was in Northeast Philly at Frankfurt and Cottman. There was not really anything out of the ordinary that was there. I didn't really think things were that bad. And then you go back and you see some of the blog sites put up, videos of some of the things that happened in Center City.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I didn't even know that happened. So I would say, I agree with you. I'll keep it that way. I agree with you that there were things that, of course, things were going to happen. But when your team has not won the Super Bowl ever, you can't just expect some kind of
something.
Right.
Stuff happened, but I mean, I expected us to leave this place like the way Bon Jovi leaves a hotel room. Yeah. I thought we were going to go nuts. But I think the fact that we were still shell shocked helped a little too, and we had ramped up to it, and maybe it was a good. I debated whether or not it was a good thing. Maybe it was good just to get it done right away and have a parade, so we couldn't build up and go really wild. And
I think it also the weather. It was so cold on that parade day that people just kind of. Even though they came out, they were just like, all right, parade's over. I want to stop by the bar for a bit. I want to get home.
Yeah, and whoever the evil genius was that decided on a Thursday parade, it's like, they can get happy, but only so happy because they've got to go back to work. Yeah, so it was like you couldn't have.
If it was on a Friday, I think we would have reported that Friday. And then would have bled over into Saturday.
I think it was on Friday. You would be reported from like ash and ruins.
Right.
The city of Philadelphia is no more. We celebrated too hard because that's like that's how you do it in Philly. It was like pin up like the Red Sox, fans' frustration over years, and it was years of we can do it. I told you so. And are you a Philly sports fan?
For the most part, yeah.
Uh-oh.
I'll keep it at that.
No, okay.
I'm on the Sixers bandwagon. I was cheering for the Flyers. So yeah.
Okay. The anything you want to say to your wife? Anybody else? What?
No, I want to say thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for the opportunity, Mark and Diana. Thanks for helping get this done. There's we do a lot of things in the community too. What a lot of people probably don't see. We have a couple of things that people are working on. We have a group of journalists that are doing stories on medical debt, and
is that a thing? No.
You'd be surprised. I didn't know it was a thing until
it is a thing.
Until we get these emails. So it's if you have a chance, check out NBC10 and check out the stories where you at home, listener, hopefully an NBC10 viewer, can watch and see how you can help somebody who is drowning in medical debt. We have a feature that we're working on coming up about people who are broke in Philly. And, you'd be surprised that I thought, I feel as though Philadelphia is a inexpensive city to live in. But there's still people out there who are struggling, and we're telling their stories.
Cost of everything is going up, and,
it is.
And wages aren't rising at the same rate. You should really talk to Bill Baldini. We were talking about that before. Bill Baldini used to do human stories where he would go out and just solve problems, but it was more than that, and he held the record for getting dragged into court more than anybody, but he never lost a suit. And he would go and I did an interview with him, and it was just fascinating because he was always like the advocate for the little guy.
Right.
And
you know, at the end of the day, that's kind of what we're doing. We're public service. And I think a lot of people kind of lose that in translation when they see the story maybe not follow what their beliefs are. You know, at the end of the day, we have to tell both sides of the story. Well, we should.
you should, yeah.
We should. And I think, at least at our station, we try to do a good job of it. But at the same token, if anyone has questions about, you know, how we run our operation, I would invite them to just come to a meeting and see, you know, how we decide to cover news for the day. And I think people will be very surprised at how
I've been to one of those. It's painful. It's painful. It's just the amount of detail, and you're listening, and you're just, and you know, inside of us, yell, just print the story. Just
I think people see the finished product,
right,
and they think we just go out there, and they don't see that our meetings start at the beginning of the day or beginning of the shift, and they kind of carry on to what you see the finished product.
It's the same thing with the police department having sit-stat meetings and stuff where they go over what's going on in the community. And the community just sees them out there and thinks that they just get in the cars to do it. They don't think that they're going over everything. And there's a lot when you're a professional to doing the job that complicates it. And, you know, to your credit, I asked David Chang if I should bust your hump when you were here, and he said, leave him alone.
I'll be sure to tell him I appreciate it when I see him.
But thank you very much, and thank you, and keep up the good work. And
thank
I hope
you, Mark.
you stay at the city. And do you want to get inside behind the desk?
Eventually.
Do you ever do that? Do you ever get a chance to do that?
I'm waiting on my opportunity. So if
it'll probably feel weird the first time.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's been a while since I've done it, you know. But it's like riding a bike. I would hope, without training wheels.
I think outside be harder, but
for the most, I mean, I think sometimes if you're just out there and there's nothing really out there with you, I think the toughest part is always being out there either in the elements or around a bunch of people, because you never know what's going to happen, what the variables are going to be. Yeah,
because inside, I think you have to be a little better, a little sharper, because nobody's giving you the out of, crazy man coming behind you. And
right. And so the big thing is either you're outside and you feel the energy of what's going on outside, or you're inside and you have to bring that energy out a lot more. But
I think that's tougher, because I think the outside, that energy of that backdrop is so dynamic.
It is.
You can get away with it rather than standing there with a green screen and just having it come up. That seems like it'd be tougher.
Yeah. But a lot of times you have to memorize. When you're outside, you have to memorize. There's no teleprompter outside, so you gotta memorize. You have to have a good memory.
They got a thing called an iPad. You can just a teleprompter out.
You know, they kind of frown upon that, and you know, I get it. So I try not to, because it's got to the point now where, you know, back in the day, when you saw, well, I shouldn't say back in the day, I should say pre-smartphones, you would see reporters out there with notepads and having their notes.
Right.
Where it was more natural if you look down at your notes, okay, it's cool. You got your notes. Now it's like if you're looking down at your iPhone or your iPad, it's almost as though you're like, do I have my script here, or am I like checking a message or a text message, or is somebody calling me? And so you kind of have to.
But what if you had it on a stand right next to the camera, or clamped right to the side of the camera?
That may work for some people. I think for me, when you look back at that video, you're going to see somebody looking off camera. And I think it just looks a little bit disingenuous. We have in our digital, we call it our breaking news center, our digital operations center. there is a teleprompter in there, but it's right above the camera. And so for me, at least, when I look up and if I try to read the teleprompter, you're going to see my eyes above the camera.
It takes away some authenticity.
And so you're looking at that like, what is he looking at?
And people watch your cues. And do you ever go back and look at yourself and just say, look at that, look at what I just did, and nobody else sees it?
Sometimes I kind of liken it to if I do a live shot, it's almost like I'm going back and looking at something like game tape. Like you have athletes that look at game tape. I look back at it and I say, well, I could have done this right, or I did this wrong, or I did this really well. So I try to critique myself when I go back and look, or I try to see how it turned out.
I had somebody from your station do an interview with me about a missing person case we were working, and I did like this. Nobody else noticed except for me, but it like glares at me. Mm-hmm. They asked me if I thought the person was alive, and I said I don't know either way, but I'm proceeding with the assumption that they are alive. And then I said, look at my eyes, and I slowly glanced up to heaven when I said that. It was like, oh, come on, man. You just answered it right there, you know.
Right.
But what's a word that you can't pronounce that you just hate to see?
That's tough. I will say this. When a few years ago I had Invisalign braces, and I would wear those on air, and I would have this lisp, and so I couldn't say fifth on air.
So it's like fifth?
Yeah. And like I could feel my tongue get caught in my teeth, and that was a word that I hated saying.
But does anybody ever write what you say? Do you ever get anything scripted?
We write what we say.
So you didn't have somebody that was just writing fifth into like everything?
No. So, right.
There is no fifth and fifth in Philadelphia.
Right. So the way it breaks down is we have, the reporters and anchors. We usually write our stuff, but then we also have producers who write. A lot of what the anchors will say is written by producers who have put that show together. And for them, it's almost as though you're writing to somebody else's voice.
Okay.
Which is a tough job in itself. But so the people you don't see, a lot of stuff the anchors are reading, and a lot of it is really kind of a large communication effort between the producers, executive producers, managing editors, anchors, reporters.
Okay. It's like I said, it's much more complicated than somebody sitting in their basement and blogging and
and I think to get back to what you were saying about the word, I some words are tougher when I'm trying to read them a lot faster. So hopefully that kind of answers that a bit.
There's some words that you have to like back off on the clutch a little and just say it out. That you just. But I had somebody who does another radio show, and I forget the word, but I had posed all my questions to make her say this word, and she finally just like, stop it. You know what you're doing. You know I can't say that word.
Yeah.
And I was trying to get her to say that word, but I since you would never do it to yourself since you write your own stuff, I was wondering if other people write it.
You know what? There was a word. Now that I think about it.
I knew I would get it.
Lafayette. Is it? So we did a story.
Did you say Lafayette?
I said Lafayette.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So,
Can you feel her disappointment behind you? Can you just?
I'm sure I'll feel it after we get off the air. But yeah, so that was the one word that no matter how many times I saw it, I said it incorrectly.
Did you say it on air?
I didn't say it live, but I said it in one of our stories. So
is there a video of this somewhere?
I'm sure there is. It was recorded.
Lafayette.
So, right, yeah. But I made sure, and that was because Yeah. So.